Howdy folks, Dreadshells here, and welcome back to World of Tanks. I have another T49 game to show you guys today. In the last video that I uploaded on the channel, I showed you guys a game that I had in my T49 on Fiery Salient Standard Mode South Spawn, and this game is Fiery Salient South Spawn Encounter. There isn't a huge difference in the positioning that you use from encounter mode versus standard as far as a scouting point of view is concerned. There is a little bit of difference in the fact that you have double spawns in encounter mode, and the more mobile tanks tend to spawn closer to the 1-2 line, and that way you're a little bit closer to getting into your passive spotting positions, and the enemy scouts are as well, so you need to be careful about how aggressive and far up you move into your positioning, as the enemy scouts also take a lot less time to getting into their spots. Also, the other slight difference is because the cap zone is here in E7, E8, F7, F8, you don't have as much opportunity to use this this bush here right on the edge of F7 and F8 that I've shown you guys before on the channel. That you can use to spot the back side of the north side of the hill here in F0, simply because the cap zone draws a lot of attention on encounter mode. Usually the enemy team will send 1 or 2 tanks into the cap circle maybe at the start of the game, and that's just simply way too close. Also, usually because this number 1 spawn is so close to the cap, a lot of the time the enemy team send a lot of tanks into this side of the map in general, and it's a little bit too dangerous to use this position on encounter mode, I believe. But anyway, let's go through the team compositions here real quick. Kind of a weird composition for both teams here. There's 3 tier 10s on each side. We have 3 tier 10 heavies. They have an E100 TVP and a Gorilla for their 3 tier 10s. A couple arty on each team. And a lot of tier 8s, and we even have a tier 7 here at KV13 who failed platoon with an LTTB. So the KV13 normally only sees up to tier 9 tanks, so the LTTB dragged him into a tier 10 game. And as far as the aspect of the teams, there's a lot of armor in the top half of our team with our IS-7, E5, T57, E75, ST1, or STI, whatever you would prefer to call it. The T54 also has decent armor. They don't have as many armor type tanks in their top tiers. They have the E100, of course, and the Yag Tiger. And the WZ-14 has a strong turret, but its hull is really weak at this tier. A lot of guns can pen it. And then there's a lot of low tier tanks. About half of each team are tier 8s, so that's quite unusual. So I have a lot of obligation to try to be aggressive with my damage as well as spotting, which goes without saying when you're in this kind of a tiering in a scout, but especially in the T49. The T49 is not a traditional spotting scout. It's kind of what I would call a combat scout, kind of like the T54 lightweight, where it can spot and does a decent job of it with its 400 meters base view range, but its camo rating isn't the best. It's on the low side for a tier 8 scout, and it has a decent amount of damage potential with its 152 millimeter howitzer. So before I start rambling on too much longer, let's just start the game. And on counter mode, what I like to do early, if there's multiple scouts in the game, like here, where they have the 1390 RU and LTTB, I usually like to move up to one of these bushes here on the left side of the road, this one, or this one, and you can use these positions here to screen enemy scouts that like to come up here into the D1 and E1 bushes that are very traditional for scouts to go to from the north spawn. And there we go, we spot their RU-251 trying to move into position already. And the side of an RU is just too juicy for me to resist. Get spotted for taking the shot and get down into cover into this 3-line ditch so I don't get shot. And we get a nice penetrating shot of HE into the side of him, and he takes 1 tick of fire damage for a total of 944 damage. And since there was no enemy scouts making an active roll scout up here in the mid-ridge while I was down here in this 3-line ditch, I decided that it was okay for me to move back into the same position that I was in before. And we're able to get back into this position before the LTTB on the enemy team starts his roll scouting on the mid-ridge again. Just kind of waiting for the battle to progress, waiting for the enemy to make the first move since we have a good vision positioning. I don't want this RU to get away. He's a very important tank to take out in a vision map like Prokhorovka/Fiery Salient, and that's one less set of vision eyes that the enemy team can use. Gonna pause the game here real quick. Our KV-13 was way too exposed up here on this on the high side of this embankment here, and I guess that would be G1 slash yeah, I guess that would be G1. Especially with enemy scouts roll scouting on the mid-ridge here. But the reason I'm pausing the game here is you need to be trying to assimilate as much information as possible about what's going on in the battle as you can to help you make better decisions that will help later on in the battle. And one of the techniques that you can do is pay attention to who is killing who in the battle messages, right? As far as your teammates killing enemy tanks and vice versa. And the gorilla on the enemy team just killed our KV-13. So wherever the gorilla is, he had shots on the KV-13, right? Obviously. And so where was the KV-13? And this is where map knowledge comes in. I know the gorilla can't be over here in A6 and B6 sniping from the north side of the rail tracks because he would be out of draw range to shoot this KV-13. He might be over here in E5 and E6 maybe, but it's way more likely that he's sitting over here on the 1-2 lines. So I packed that knowledge away and took a note of that as the KV-13 kill to know where your enemies are probably are, just from battle messages like from who killed who. They don't even have to be spotted sometimes. If you have good enough map knowledge and know how people can get shot from a limited number of positions, then you can deduct where the enemy is most likely. So I move up to this bush here, taking advantage that the 1390 backed off after he took a derp shot from the KV-13. And just trying to see if I can respot the Pat and KR, maybe the Gorilla, and any other tanks here that might be on the 1-2 line. And now that this LTTB has moved up into literally the exact same position that I am, I feel that it would be completely redundant for both of us to be up there on the front bush there and getting the same amount of risk, and at least not one of us being further back and being able to aim our shots better and take a better marksmanship damage. And then he decides to relocate. Always a good idea to try to, when there's multiple scouts on your team and on the enemy team, of course, try not to all go to the same area of the map, or like the same flank, or the same position even, because you're wasting the vision potential of your tanks that you can be helping your team get intel on what the enemy team is doing. Right now, I'm sitting here. Let me pause the game. Right now I'm sitting here watching the backside of our flank, right? So our entire team went east, which is fine since the objective, the encounter cap circle is over here in on the east side of the map, and we have some tanks over here in the 6th line. That's also good. And our artillery are sitting in a safe position. They didn't move over west, which is fine. And the reason that I'm staying here for now is because, one, I want to give my team intel on if the enemies start pushing down the 1-2 lines here on the minimap. If they start pushing south down the 1-2 lines with whatever tanks that they have here, we know that the Patton KR was last spotted over here. We know that the Gorilla 15 was probably over here because he killed our KV-13 that is up here. And there might be some other tanks over there. So it's just one tank, myself sitting here getting backside vision, and I can always run away if I need to the south and to the east to get into cover once I see that they're pushing. So that is why I'm staying here at the moment. A lot about playing Prokhorovka is being patient, letting the enemy team make the first mistake. And we see that the enemy LTTB there is still roll scouting on the mid-ridge, so that I need to be careful that he doesn't spot me here. As scouts roll scouting here in E3, E4, E5 can spot people in the position that I am. And it looks like our Bulldog is going to go full YOLO down the 1-2 lines. And I know that he's probably going to die here, but I at least want to try to do a shot of damage to whatever he's going to be spotting as he's going down there. There we go, he took a shot of damage there, 260, probably from the Patton KR. And there's the Patton KR. And we do a little under 300 damage to the Patton KR. Unfortunately, I think the shell went a little bit high, probably hit him in the turret instead of the hull, otherwise we would have done a little bit more damage to him probably. Unfortunately, the Bulldog did not spot whether the Gorilla 15 was there or not, so we didn't get any more intel on if any other tanks besides the Patton KR are on that flank, other than the 1390 of course, which was lurking around there. And then I'm relocating over here to the middle because I realized that I'm kind of wasting my time then at that point, and I probably should have relocated from the flank about, I don't know, 30 to 45 seconds earlier, as I'm just kind of wasting my time. The battle is progressing over here in the east side of the map without me, which is always a really bad thing, no matter what tank you're playing. Across the middle of the rail tracks, as there was no presence of the enemy team spotted the 54 lightweight and LTTB. We're not spotting anyone here in E5 and E6, so I knew I was safe to hop up over the rail tracks, and by the time I would get spotted by whoever's over here, I would already be in cover from the destructible houses that are on the cap circle. So we spot that their Jagdtiger and E100 are sitting there on the 6th line, and now the Pershing has been spotted there as well. So as long as the enemy team aren't going to keep me from doing this, I'm going to do it again, right? We have several guns up here on the hill, and they can shoot whatever I'm spotting over here on the 6th line. When we get more spots there, respot the Jagdtiger, E100, and Pershing again. And now I'm going to change it up a little bit just to save time. It would take me another 20 seconds or so to do the same loop again, and I want to try to keep these guys lit as long as possible and consistently. The Pershing has moved up, and I respot the Jagdtiger, and I do some really bad driving there, really bad situational awareness about where the E5 wreck on my team was. And luckily the enemy already don't shoot me, and no one on the back side of the hill shot me like from F0 or E0. It looks like the enemy has backed off from that position as we have sent so many tanks to the top of the hill. And now our 54 lightweight and LTTB have moved up into the 5 and the 6th line there, probably going to look for Artie, but they haven't seen enemy Artie yet. So we know that enemy Artie is not in A5 and A6. Respot the IS-3 and the E100, unfortunately not from stealth, as the approach line I didn't have a bush in between me and him, so I'm using the wreck of this Tiger 2 to keep me safe from fire from the E100. Some more bad driving on my part, not paying attention to where the prop was sitting, T49 prop was sitting on my team. But I didn't want to get shot for 750 damage from the E100, plus or minus 25%, so. Respot the E100 there. and he respots us as well. Fortunately, take a shot of damage from the TVP 5051 there, who's sniping on the north rail crossing there in B6A6. Fortunately, the E100 took some damage from my spotting there, and now we know he's down to a one-shot. And now I'm going to pause the game here. And remember what I said earlier about how it's important to be paying attention to battle messages and not just realizing where the enemy tanks are from where they're spotted. Like if you have been spotting them or your teammates have been spotting them and seeing them spotted on the minimap, but knowing where the enemy probably is from the kill messages, right? If you know where your teammates are and one of them die, and you have good enough map knowledge to know that they could have only gotten shot from 1, 2, or maybe 3 positions, then you know at least what side of the map the enemy tank is probably, and maybe even narrow it down a little bit more to maybe an exact position where the enemy tank is. And that happened when our KV-13 died over here on the 1-2 line, right? And it's been a long time since we've seen the Patton KR, and we haven't seen the Gorilla at all yet, right? Even with how aggressive my team has been over here on the east flank. So my spidey senses were tingling, and I decided to relocate back here to the south to see if the Patton KR and the Gorilla have moved up down the 1, 2, 3 lines. So we move up to the south rail crossing, cross it, and now I'm moving west to get into close enough distance so this area of the map was within my view range, within the 445 meter spotting distance circle. And there we go! We were able to anticipate and predict what the Gorilla 15 was going to be doing on the enemy team. Stopping here, thinking about taking a shot of damage at the Gorilla, as I can probably easily pen him with my HE, and then I realize I'm going to pause the game here. The reason that I didn't take the shot at the Gorilla is because I would be 100% stationary if I wanted the shot to be accurate, right? So I might have hit him and penned him and done a lot of damage to him, right? But he can easily one-shot me. I think the Gorilla 15 also has a 750 alpha damage, so he can easily kill me, as I only have 707 HP left. And I don't have any line of cover in between me and him after I fire, right? So I decide that the best thing for me to do is try to get back to these rail tracks here and get behind this embankment of solid cover to protect myself from getting shot from the Gorilla. Unfortunately, I waited to decide to do that until 10-15 seconds too late. I should have moved right away back to this rail crossing here. But now I'm at risk of getting shot at by the Gorilla and maybe killed because he's really, really close to me right now. And he just got shut down by our 261, who did a one-shot HE shell, I think. I don't think the AP rounds on the 261 have enough alpha. I don't know, someone in the chat, or excuse me, someone in the comments can correct me. I'm not familiar with the alpha damage for the AP and HE shells of the 261. And we were able to get him spotted and get him killed. Unfortunately, I aim a little low, plus the shell goes a little bit low and to the left, and we missed the Patton KR, but the 261 on my team balances not only the Gorilla 15, but he also balances the Patton KR, and we get those two tanks taken out of the fight. And now we've just relieved a lot of the side pressure on our team formation here, right? So we don't have to worry too much about the enemy tanks over here in the south and in the west, of course. We need to still be thinking about what the TVP and the 1390 might be doing here in the center. E100 is trapped down here in this river ditch down here in C0 and in D0, and he's a one-shot. just sitting here and being patient, putting cap pressure on the enemy team to force them to make a move that is bad for them, as they're already down a lot of HP. Respot the TVP 50-51 there. And the I-7 on the hill is able to snipe him and secure the kill and take his gun out of the fight as he was sitting there in D67. Now I'm moving over here to try and intercept the 1390 who's going for our artillery. Made a bad trajectory there. Usually what you want to do, I'll pause the game here. Usually what you want to do when you're playing the T49 or any tank at all actually, but especially derp tanks, if you want to maximize the likelihood that you're going to be hitting a target on the move, and especially if you're using auto aim, what you want to do is make the target transversal as little or to zero as you can, because if the target is moving across your gun, right? The auto aim itself does not give lead to the target, so if they're moving across, it's quite likely that your shell will end up falling behind them as they are crossing your gun. And the other thing that affects it is when they're going crossways too, if your turret traverse is in play, and that also affects it because of the rotation speed of your turret, the degrees per second, and also it affects your accuracy, because there's several different soft stats that affect your accuracy. Your accuracy on turret traverse, which is what we're talking about here, your accuracy on the move, so if your tank is driving forward or backward, and your accuracy on hull traverse or tank traverse, the chassis of the tank itself. So all those stats are how fast you're moving, what rate of turn your hull is, what rate of turn your turret is. All of those stats are added up to each other to give the bloom that you have currently, depending on how fast you're moving and what degree of you are turning. So what you want to try and do is, if you're on the move, drive straight at the enemy or straight away from the enemy, if you're sure that you can kill them in the engagement, of course. That way you kind of eliminate the accuracy that factor of turret traverse, and you only are talking about accuracy on the move, and maybe slightly on hull traverse. So I kind of made a misplay there by not engaging him straight, and I had to wait until he slowed down and up here on this embankment before I was able to take my shot. And unfortunately, because of that, I had a side shot and the tracks ate my HE shell and I didn't pen him. So now I'm just getting up over the embankment just in case he decides to engage me, to give myself enough time to reload. But he didn't engage me. Maybe he was still tracked. And I got enough time to reload, and I've secured the kill. And I was able to save our 261. And now our team have finally pushed off the hill, which they probably should have done with the amount of tanks and weight that they had up there earlier in the mid game. But they finally pushed off. They secured the kill on the one-shot E100, and now it's just cleanup mode, looking for the M5355 and the Batchat already. The M5355 was last spotted up here in A0, and they respot him here again in that same corner. The I-7 secures the kill on him. I'm going over here to the northwest side of the map because maybe I'm anticipating that the Batchat already has tried to run away and give himself time to maybe get a couple more shots of damage, and thinking that he might be over here in this northwest corner, but he's not. He stayed over here in A7 and A8 in this riverbed over here. And the ST1 on my team wraps up the game and secures the kill on the Batchat Artie. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this game and got a feel for how the Fiery Salient / Prokhorovka plays on encounter mode from the south spawn. Did some tactical misplays here and there, waiting too long over here, I think, on the 1-2 line in the early game. Once it became apparent that we had enough set of eyes over here, like the Bulldog on my team and the LTTB were roaming around here in the mid-ridge, so I probably stayed over here in G1 too long, trying to keep eyes on the 1-2 line. Our team sent a ton of tanks over here onto the top of hill, which is great for encounter mode, but unfortunately they didn't have a lot of spots over here, so my delay in trying to help spot the east side of the flank probably got a couple of my teammates killed, unfortunately, but I finally realized the mistake that I was doing and moved over here and started spotting the 6 and the 7 line and was able to end up getting a lot of assistance damage out of this game. And the main reason I'm showing you guys this game here today in my T49 is because this was the game that I was able to achieve 100% marks of excellence in the T49 on the North American server. And as far as I'm aware, that it still works like this, which means that I was able to get the most, the highest amount of direct and assistance damage combination in the T49 on the North American server for the last 2 weeks. So it's kind of the 4th mark of excellence, if you will, if you want to call it that, beyond the 3rd mark. And I was quite surprised that I got it. I was looking at it the other day and saw that I was able to achieve it. So hope you guys enjoyed watching this game. Hopefully I gave you guys some ideas about how to play the T49 kind of as a more of a combat scout, but also it can do spotting fairly well, as you saw in this game. Wish you guys the best of luck out there in your Fiery Salient and Prokhorovka games. Good hunting and take care.